Vast majority of police officers are honest, hard-working people trying to do a very difficult job. But, like any other public official, if a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. In local police departments all over this country, we have got to begin demilitarizing those departments. They should not be looking like occupying armies. Police departments have got to be part of the communities they serve. We have got to make local police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We have got to end corporate ownership of jails and detention centers. That is a perverse incentive to get more people in jail. We want fewer people in jail. Our police culture has got to understand that lethal force is the last response, not the first response. We have got to rethink the so-called war on drugs. Turns out that for the last 30 years, millions of Americans have received police records for possession of marijuana. And this is serious business. Because if you're a kid going out looking for a job and your potential employer asks you, have you ever been arrested? Well, yes, sir, I have. You may not get that job when you really need that job. Right now, today, under the Federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug right next to heroin. That is why I have introduced legislation to take marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act. When we talk about drugs in this country, this is a crisis situation because we have an epidemic in my state and all over this country regarding opiate addiction and heroin addiction. Cheap heroin is flooding the streets of America. I was told, if you can believe it, that in Baltimore, Maryland, I don't know if this is true, they say that 10% of the people there are addicted to heroin. Tens of thousands of people. Now, if we are going to get a handle on this crisis, there is one principle that we have got to understand, and that is we will not be successful in treating addiction or substance abuse unless we understand this is a health issue, not a criminal issue. And what we also have got to address is that we have today a crisis in mental health treatment. All over this country, I get calls in my office, other senators do the same. People are worried about family members, they're worried about suicides, they're worried about people committing terrible atrocities. People want to get off the addictions they have, and yet they cannot find the treatment they need when they need it at a cost they can afford. We need a revolution in mental health treatment in this country. We need to make mental health treatment available to people when they need it, today, not 6 months from now. This campaign is going to win because we are listening to ordinary people, not just wealthy campaign contributors. We are listening to young people. And one of the really gratifying aspects of this campaign is when we began, many of the pundits and all of the political scientists were saying, well, you know, young people, you know, they're busy worrying about their video games and other types of similar activity, but they're not going to get involved in politics or in government issues. Well, it turns out that those experts were not quite right. Because what we are seeing all across this country is young people understanding that they are the future of this country, understanding that decisions being made in Washington today will impact them for the rest of their lives. And what they are saying is we are the future and we damn well want to help shape that future. The young people are saying two things, well, many more things, but two major things. Saying a lot. But here's point number one. They are asking a very simple but profound question. How does it happen that the young generation today, if we do not change our economy, will likely have a lower standard of living than their parents for the first time in the modern history of our country? Now, my family never had any money, but my parents worked hard so that their kids would be able to do better than they. Millions of American families did the same. That is called the American dream. Parents work hard so their kids do better. That dream of hard work so your kids can do better is what this country is about. We together will not allow that American dream to die. And there's another issue, and again, I beg of you to think outside of the box. Give yourselves options that you don't necessarily see on TV. Ask yourself this question: how does it happen that when young people do what their parents tell them to do, what their teachers tell them to do, what their community tells them to do, and that is go out and get the best education that you can? Young people are doing that, and then they are finding themselves $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 in debt. I have talked to doctors, $300,000 in debt, dentists, $400,000, kids who drop out of college after 2 years, $60,000 debt. Talk to a guy in Nevada. He's been paying off his student debt for 25 years. He's more in debt today than he was when he took his loans out. Think outside of the box. We want to have the best educated workforce in the world. We want all of our people to have the ability and the desire to get as much education as they can. We should not be punishing people for getting an education. We should be rewarding them. You know, thinking outside of the box. 50 years ago, if you had a high school degree, you were doing pretty well. Likelihood is you can go out and get a middle-class job, earn a good living. The world has changed, the economy has changed, technology has changed, and education must change with that. And that is why I believe that when we talk about public education today, it is not good enough to talk about just first grade through 12th grade. That was great 30, 50 years ago. Today, when we talk about public education, we've got to be talking about making public colleges and universities tuition free. This is not a radical idea. It's an idea that will happen. Our job is to make it happen sooner than later. If Germany, if Scandinavia, if other countries around the world can invest in their young people so they can get the best education available without leaving school in debt, we in the United States can do the same. Anybody here struggling with student debt? Welcome to the club. Millions of Americans are in exactly your boat. Now, what we have got to do right now to deal with student debt is to say to all of those people carrying that debt, you must be able to refinance your loans at the lowest interest rates you can find. That will mean a very significant reduction in the student debt burden. Now, I am criticized all of the time for thinking too big, too radical.
Thank you, Bernie!
And people say, hey Bernie, you know, you're Santa Claus, you're a nice guy. Giving these guys free tuition in public colleges and universities. You're a nice guy, you're gonna lower student debt in America. Wonderful person you are. How are you gonna pay for this? I will tell you how we pay for it, and this is called thinking outside of the box. Somehow, 8 years ago, when the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior on Wall Street nearly destroyed this economy, Wall Street went to the Congress and said, oh, please bail us out. And against my vote, Congress did that. Well, today, Wall Street is doing just fine. And I think now is the time to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. That one tax will bring in more than enough money to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and substantially reduce student debt. If this country could bail out Wall Street, it is Wall Street's time to help the working families of this country. This campaign is listening to the Latino community. There are 11 million undocumented people in this country. Many of them are being exploited on the job because when you have no legal rights, your employer can do anything he wants to you and you have no recourse. You can't stand up. And that is why together we are going to pass comprehensive immigration reform legislation and a path toward citizenship. This campaign is listening to the African American community. And what they are asking is a very simple and honest and straightforward question. And that is, how does it happen that we could spend trillions of dollars on a war in Iraq that we never should have gotten into? A war that I not only voted against, but helped lead the opposition to. But what African Americans are asking, how can we spend trillions on a war there when we apparently don't have the money to rebuild inner cities throughout America. I was in Detroit, Michigan. Their public school system is on the verge of financial collapse. I was in Baltimore, tens of thousands of people addicted to heroin. I was in Chicago, people paying 40, 50, 60% of their limited incomes for housing because there is no affordable housing.
Hey guys, sorry I had to step away for a minute. I can't stand
in Iraq
too long. My feet are starting to hurt. But
I'm
I'm going to keep recording.